In just 15 minutes, you'll be able to understand the principle of correspondence from the Kybalion in a way that's so simple and practical, you'll be able to apply it to your life today. And finally understand why your life seems to repeat in patterns you just can't break. In this video, we're going to simplify one of the most powerful principles of Hermetic wisdom, the principle of correspondence. You know that phrase, as above, so below? It has a much deeper meaning than you might think, and once you truly grasp it, you'll begin to decode the symbolism of your life as if it were an open book. My name is Noah, and you're on the Hermes Code channel. Here, together, we turn ancient knowledge into practical, everyday wisdom. We'll uncover why you've been considered a vital illiterate up to now, how to recognize the patterns that govern your life, and how to use this knowledge to evolve consciously. Stick with me, because what I'm about to share will completely change your perspective. Let me start by asking you an honest question. How many times have you felt like life was trying to tell you something, but you just couldn't understand the message? There's actually a name for this. We are vital illiterates. Yes, you heard that right. We can read words, recognize numbers, even computer code, but when life tries to communicate with us through its symbols and patterns, we're completely lost. The principle of correspondence says, what is above is like what is below, and what is below is like what is above. But hold on, this isn't just a nice phrase to memorize. It's literally the key to understanding how the universe operates across its many planes of existence. Think about it. Have you noticed how certain situations repeat in your life? That's not a coincidence. It's the same pattern, the same law manifesting on different levels. Maybe it's a conflict with your boss that mirrors a conflict you had with your father. Or maybe it's a financial struggle that feels emotionally identical to a relationship challenge. The problem is, we don't know how to read these messages. It's like life is sending us different-looking situations with the same symbolic content, and we just can't decode them. And the result? We get stuck in the same patterns, living the same lessons in different ways, without learning. Once you understand that it's the same law operating on different planes, you develop a superpower. You begin to interpret what life is trying to teach you. You start to see that an argument with your partner might actually reflect the same inner conflict you have with yourself. That a problem at work might be mirroring how you deal with your inner authority. It's like becoming a detective of your own existence, where every situation is a clue to the same big mystery you're meant to solve. Now let me tell you something that's going to blow your mind. Physical space is one thing, but vibrational space is something completely different. Let me give you a practical example. Take an electrical wire. The wire and the electrical energy are in the same physical space, right? But they're not in the same vibrational space. The wire is dense matter. The energy is subtle vibration. Two different planes occupying the same physical location. This happens with everything in life. You have a physical body, but your consciousness is already vibrating on the mental plane. You can be physically present here, but your mind might be somewhere else entirely. These are distinct planes of existence happening simultaneously, but they correspond to each other, one influencing the other. And here's the most fascinating part. Depending on the stage of your evolution, your consciousness can reach certain levels of these planes. It's like an elevator. You can only go as high as the floors you have access to. Do you know what that means? What you are is literally what you can consciously perceive. If you can only perceive the physical plane, you identify only with your body. If you can perceive the emotional plane, you identify with your feelings. If you reach the mental plane, you identify with your thoughts. But all of these are just steps on the same staircase. The evolutionary level of human beings is exactly that. How far your consciousness has been able to reach, how much of yourself it has been able to see, and what level of vibration it has already attained. And we all came into this world with one purpose, to evolve, to reclaim more and more of our true identity. It's not about having more things or being more important. It's about expanding your consciousness to subtler planes of existence. And have you ever noticed these different levels of your own consciousness? Have you ever had moments when you were able to see beyond the physical? Share an experience like that in the comments. I really want to hear about it. Now let me share something deep about human existence. All things are moving toward an ideal, a version closer to perfection. And we, as human beings, are part of something much greater trying to know itself. Think of it like this. There's something called the monad, which you can think of as a divine spark, a fragment of universal consciousness. This monad fell into the material world not as punishment, but out of necessity. It needed to become more self-aware through the contrasts and polarities of the material world. It's genius when you understand this. Consciousness needs contrast in order to know itself. How could you know what light is if you never experienced darkness? How could you understand love if you never experienced the absence of it? The material world is a school of contrasts. Let me give you an analogy that will make it all clear. Do you know Jacques Cousteau, the famous ocean explorer? Imagine he's on his boat, photographing the ocean at different depths. On the surface, he sees one thing. At 20 meters, he sees something else. At 100 meters, something completely different. At 1,000 meters, a whole new world. Each depth has its own creatures, its own laws, its own characteristics. But it's all the same ocean. What changes is the depth, the pressure, the light. That's how it is with our consciousness. What descends into the densest level of matter is the I of our awareness. Right now, most of us operate in the mental realm. We can think, reason, plan. But we also have a physical body, an emotional body, and even subtler planes that we can explore. Evolution is exactly that. Your consciousness diving deeper and deeper into the vast oceans of existence. And with each level you reach, you gain a new perspective on who you truly are. Matter is simply energy vibrating at a lower frequency. Your physical body is your consciousness vibrating at a dense frequency. Your emotions are your consciousness vibrating at a slightly subtler frequency. Your thoughts, even subtler. And so on, with the planes of correspondence unfolding further and further. When you understand this, you realize that evolution isn't about collecting theoretical knowledge. It's about consciously expanding your ability to perceive and integrate different levels of your own existence. It's about becoming more and more aware of who you really are. Now I'm going to reveal something that might sound like science fiction, but it's actually ancient Hermetic knowledge. You're not alone on this evolutionary journey. There are beings known as elementals. Many people think of them as fantasy or folklore, but they are mechanical intelligences with specific roles within nature. They have subtle bodies and operate on a parallel evolutionary path to humanity. They're like support beings working behind the scenes to keep everything functioning in harmony. Ever seen an insect that perfectly camouflages with its surroundings? Or a flower that has just the right colors to attract the right pollinator? That's not just random natural selection. Elemental intelligences are working to make those connections happen. These elementals live within the 4 fundamental elements, and each has a specific role. Water elementals work with energy, life force, electricity, magnetism. They're responsible for the circulation of vital energy in all living beings. When you feel that revitalizing energy near a waterfall, it's not just negative ions. It's elemental intelligence at work. Fire elementals operate on the mental level. They are creative, transformative. They work with ideas and processes of change. When you have a brilliant insight, you can bet a fire elemental was involved. Earth elementals handle the physical, structure, form, manifestation. They work to give shape to things in the material world. From the growth of a plant to the healing of a broken bone. Air elementals work on the emotional plane, circular emotions, communication, connection. They facilitate emotional exchanges between beings. Paracelsus, the great alchemist, described in detail how these elementals help structure matter across its various evolutionary levels. They are like a custodial group of beings, intricately interwoven and specifically supporting the human line of evolution. If you want to learn more about Paracelsus's work, we have a video that explains it in detail. Back to the elementals. What's most interesting is that they don't do this out of obligation. They do it because it's their role within the great cosmic organism. It's as if every being has its own part to play in the grand symphony of existence. When you understand that there's an entire network of intelligence working to support your evolution, you begin to feel a much deeper sense of gratitude and respect for life. You realize you're not struggling alone. There's an invisible support system always working to give you the best possible conditions to grow. Now I want to talk about something few people dare to bring up. Why has this knowledge always been reserved for a few? And what is the true cost of spiritual awakening? Spiritual power has always been knowledge reserved for the few, not out of elitism or discrimination, but out of a necessity for safety. The more someone understands about the laws that govern existence, the more dangerous they can become if their character isn't consistently developed. Think about it. If you discovered how to manipulate the laws of physics, you could build a bridge, or you could build a bomb. The same is true for spiritual knowledge. When you understand how the planes of correspondence work, you can use that knowledge to evolve, or to manipulate and control others. That's why the spiritual path has always required merit. It's the overcoming of challenges that generates true merit. Human beings must have both the opportunity and the possibility to overcome the trials of the path and transcend selfishness. It's not about being deserving without reason. It's about proving you have the moral maturity to use knowledge constructively. The path always has two possibilities: success or failure. And it's precisely the possibility of failure that makes merit real. Without risk, there's no real growth. Once you begin to understand these principles, you realize you carry a much greater responsibility. You can no longer pretend you don't know. You can't use ignorance as an excuse anymore. Every choice you make has consequences across multiple planes of existence. But here's the secret. This responsibility isn't a burden, it's a liberation. When you understand the laws, you can work with them instead of against them. Instead of being a victim of circumstance, you become a conscious co-creator of your reality. The principle of correspondence gives you that master key. When you understand that what happens above is reflected below, you can look at your external life and understand exactly what needs to be adjusted internally. You can look at your relationships and understand how you're relating to yourself. You can look at any difficulty, no matter the nature, and see its connection to something within you that needs to be refined and brought into its best expression. If this knowledge resonates with you and you believe it can help others awaken to these Hermetic principles, share this video. Knowledge that isn't shared loses its transformative power. Just imagine how your life will change once you start applying the principle of correspondence in your daily experience. You'll stop being a vital illiterate and become a conscious reader of the symbols of your own existence. You'll start to see that the situation bothering you out there is the perfect reflection of something that needs to be harmonized in here. You'll understand that you are not a victim of your circumstances. You're a co-creator of them through your internal patterns. Your journey of conscious awakening begins now. You have an entire invisible support system working for your evolution. You have access to knowledge that was once reserved for the few, and you have the opportunity to become increasingly aware of who you truly are. So, if you want to dive deeper into this universe, I've created a full playlist explaining all 7 principles of the Kybalion in a practical and straightforward way. Click the link on the screen to continue your evolutionary process. And if this video helped you see life differently, leave a like. That lets me know I'm on the right path and helps more people find this content. My name is Noah, and this was my contribution. Thank you so much for staying with me until the end, and I'll see you in the next video.